Good evening, good night, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. Thank you for joining me, Be Health Empowered Family. You know, my name is Dr. Melissa Clarke. Please call me Dr. Mel. And you know what? Happy post-Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And also happy summer solstice. Today is the longest day of the year. Happy Pride Month for the month of June. And it's also Happy Men's Health Month. So greetings to everybody. Thanks for joining us to kick off this amazing week that we will create for ourselves. So here at Excuse Me, Doctor, you know we are here each and every week, Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, to bring you health topics based on science so that you can make decisions that are right for you, your family, your community, and be empowered as you're doing that. We bring focus to speculation, we clear up misinformation, and we debunk disinformation. So we're just so glad that you're joining us. Now, if you are joining us for the first time and you're on Facebook, please hit like. And if you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. So thanks for doing that. I really appreciate you. And tonight we have a really special episode. We are going to be talking about intimacy in the time of COVID. What's your experience been? What do you need to know? We know that for some people, it hasn't slowed them down at all. Whereas for others, either their motivation for physical intimacy has suffered, or fear of getting COVID has brought everything to a grinding halt. So we have a really special guest who's going to talk through all these issues with us, the incomparable Angela Stribling from Pillow Talk with Angela on DC Radio. She's been there for many years through the lockdown, and now as things are opening back up. So we're really happy that she is going to join us tonight. So because this is going to be a really great opportunity to get your questions answered, share your experience, I want you to tell everybody to tune in right now. Share this with everybody you know, because this is going to be a fantastic episode. And also remember to write all your questions in because we're going to be getting to them throughout the show. And so without any further delay, I am going to bring my co-producers who are with me every week, Miss Lila Mays, coming in from LA.
Hello.
And hey, Lila, and Mr. Wayne Bruce. Hey, Wayne.
What up? What's going on? How's everybody?
Nothing much. We are great. Doing great.
Great.
So, you know, we always start off with the numbers. And as of today, June 21st, we are over 33.5 million cases of COVID-19. We're averaging about 11,000 new cases on a daily basis nationwide. That's down from 250,000 cases every day in January. So it's a huge improvement, but 11,000 is still a lot. So, and then we also, of course, have surpassed 600,000 deaths from COVID, about 300 deaths a day still, of course, down from the 4,000 that we saw in January. And in places like Vermont that are over 80% vaccinated, 0 deaths in the past 3.5 weeks. So
come on, Vermont.
That's good.
Come on, Vermont. We shouting you out tonight.
Come on,
Absolutely.
Vermont. That maple syrup is kicking in.
That maple syrup. Well, that takes us right on into Vax Facts, Dr. Mel. Are the people going and getting vaccinated?
They're still getting vaccinated, not as fast as before, but we've done about 320 million doses in this country. And so about 150 million Americans are fully vaccinated. So about 45% of the population. Now, there's some states, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Wyoming, where fewer than 35% of the population is vaccinated. And they're seeing increased cases, increased hospitalizations. They are not having the same situation as Vermont.
Yeah.
And it's not just the maple syrup. Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe maple syrup would help them. Something needs to help them.
No, I think vaccinations might help. And unfortunately, we know the holdouts in many demographics tend to be younger African Americans and Trump evangelicals, white Trump evangelical supporters. So, and so, President Biden has really said, we're trying to get to this 70% of the country by July 4th. So they are rolling out this initiative that everybody needs to know about. Call your barber, call your stylist, because the White House has teamed up with the Black Coalition Against COVID, which is an organization that I co-founded along with others, the University of Maryland Center for Health Equity, and Shea Moisture to launch Shots at the Shops, where barbershops and salons across the country are going to be talking to clients about getting vaccinated. Some of them will even be vaccination locations. And so the barbers and the stylists that sign up for this will actually get compensated for the time they spend in training and onboarding, to the tune of about $1,000. Sorry, I almost said $100,000. $1,000 for the 4-hour training and onboarding. So I want everybody to know that.
If you said $100,000, I was about to change my occupation.
I know, that's right. So, Dr. Mill, where can barbers and stylists find this information? How can they sign up?
Yeah, so I will put this in the chat, but Shea Moisture Fund, so that's SHEA moisturefund.com /shots at the shop. All one word. So SheaMoistureFund.com shots at the shop. Just go there and you'll be able to register, and they'll contact you within a couple days to get you up and running, to get the training.
So my co-producer is manipulating shots. I see what you're doing there.
I'm doing shots.
He's manipulating our shots in the scene.
On the shot.
Just to be clear, they're talking about vaccines.
I'm sorry.
They're talking about vaccines in salons.
Right.
And
we're talking about vaccines, not the shot.
Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Mill, so I'm gonna jump around a little bit in our recap, since we're talking about vaccinations and we're talking about shots at the shop. There are some dangers, right, and some consequences to not being vaccinated. Can we get into that? I think I'm jumping to the variant. I think it's really important for us to talk about that.
Yeah, so there's this Delta variant, right, which you might have heard about, and it is gradually taking over from the other variants and the original strain of COVID. And it is more infectious, 50% more infectious, and is sending more people to the hospital, younger people to the hospital. And the good news, though, is that a new study out of Britain looked at Pfizer and the AstraZeneca vaccines, which are the ones that they're using over there. And it showed that if you get 2 shots, both doses of those vaccines, you have great protection from this Delta variant. One vaccination won't do it. One dose of Pfizer or one dose of AstraZeneca won't provide the protection that you need. So it's important, if you've gotten Pfizer in this country, to get both doses, and I would extrapolate that to Moderna as well. Of course, Johnson & Johnson is still 1 dose. So it's really important, especially some of those states that I mentioned before that have low vaccination rates below 35%, that what can happen is not just the Delta variant will get passed around, but all the variants will get passed around in those unvaccinated pockets. And there's a strong chance that at some point, a variant will emerge from those people that will, not be taken care of by the existing vaccines. So even vaccinated people might be at risk. So that's why it's really important for everybody to get vaccinated as soon as possible to prevent a variant popping up that the vaccines might not help.
Okay. So you mentioned something about young people going to the hospital, and immediately I went to number 5. There's been some news about young people, teenagers, having a reaction to one of the vaccines. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's under investigation. There's been no ruling yet. But they've seen about, out of the 20 million vaccines given to young people, about 300 cases of heart inflammation. Now, it sounds scary. The symptom is chest pain. The good news is that in the mainly young men that it's happened in, that they've all recovered. It's basically been mild, lasted about 3 to 4 days, and then they've been basically fine after that. And so this is a very small number of cases relative to the 20 million vaccines given, which is why it's still under investigation to try to figure out, is this a higher rate of this heart inflammation than is normally seen in the population, because it can happen from other things like viral infections or certain medications. So they would need to see, is this something that's out of proportion to what would normally be seen in a group of 20 million people? So we're watching the FDA to see, what their ruling is going to be, and they probably will come up with something in the next few days.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good to know. So look, in my Dr. Mel, in my other job, I have cruised quite a bit. And so when I read that Celebrity Cruise Line had sent out a fully vaccinated, quote unquote, fully vaccinated, I think they were 95% vaccinated cruise, and some people came back with COVID, I had questions. So can we address that? Because, I may cruise again one day.
That's true, and as may I. But so it turns out that these 2 people who tested positive for COVID were roommates. They had no symptoms whatsoever, and this is in the, of course, like you said, 95% of the people were vaccinated. The only 5% of the people who weren't were kids, and they had to have a negative COVID test to come on board. So if you think about it, though, what if this ship had gone out last August or last November? I think we would be seeing a very different picture in 500 people. The beauty of this is the vaccine allowed there to only be 2 people who tested positive, and they both had no symptoms. Wow. And so I think that is a great example of how the vaccine actually helps us form this wall of protection, essentially, and keeps it from spreading in a population and harming people who can't afford to get COVID, who will end up in the hospital and possibly die. And I think this is a great example of how the vaccine provides that protection.
Wow. That's great. That's great to hear. So keeping along that line of me, because Lila spent the whole first 20 minutes of the show talking about Lila. So, but it's something we share in our families. We have family members with dementia and Alzheimer's. So we read it was a new test to predict that, right? Or can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So, it's really tough when you have a loved one who's developed memory problems to know whether this is sort of the normal memory lapses that are sometimes associated with aging, or if it's something that is going to go on to end up being Alzheimer's disease. So it turns out that there are now 2 blood tests that, when taken together, can help predict, along with memory tests and thinking tests that your doctor can administer to you. So these 2 tests, one is for a gene called ApoE, and the other is for a specific protein that's seen in the brains of Alzheimer's patients, called the Tau protein. And so these 2 blood tests, along with the memory and thinking tests, can help you predict Alzheimer's in somebody with mild memory problems 90% of the time. that Alzheimer's will develop within the next 4 years. And so, even though, that's pretty amazing because, even though we don't have a cure for Alzheimer's or any kind of significant treatment, it can help families to plan for the care that will be needed. And I think it's important to know when you're, trying to figure out, is this something that may progress in my loved one?
Mm-hmm.
I think I think for some would be actually scared to know. Do you want to know? I don't know.
I think if I get to the point where I'm having some serious memory issues, I'd want to know, is this Alzheimer's or is this just what they call mild cognitive impairment, which is just the, the little quirks of memory that you get when you get older.
Well, that leads us to our next segment. You know what time it is. It is
the weekly debunk. Stopping misinformation in its tracks.
So this comes from my hip hop friend Tyrone Twitter Fingers, and I'm gonna read it like Ricky Rose. Hey, I'm just saying. I heard that I heard that I would be. It's funny. I heard that I would be shooting blanks if I got the COVID vaccine. You heard me? With lemon pepper wings.
Mr. Rapper Man, I don't know about that, but Dr. Mel, can you shed some light, please?
Well, this is a very timely question, and a question that a lot of men have about the COVID vaccine. Will it affect my ability to produce sperm, and will it affect my ability, obviously, to have kids? Because I want to have kids. So researchers at University of Miami said, look, we're going to look into this. And so they worked with 45 men who were vaccinated. They did sperm counts and showed that none of them had any kind of change in their, or sort of lowering of their sperm count. As a matter of fact, some of the men had increases in their sperm count, which we cannot attribute to the vaccine. So, don't go out and get the vaccine, think it's going to increase your sperm count. That might have just been true and unrelated. And so the people that they looked at were 18 to 50 years old. They had been vaccinated with Moderna. About half of them had Moderna, half of them had Pfizer. And it was in South Florida, so many of the men were Latino. And so there's no reason to worry, basically, what this study is showing about any kind of effect on male fertility. What we should keep in mind, though, is that the real threat to male sexual health is COVID-19 itself, because the virus has been shown to lower sperm production and possibly increase the rate of possible erectile dysfunction, which I think we talked about on a previous show. So it's Men's Health Month. That was a very important debunk to have. So thank you to Tyrone.
Thank you to Tyrone. So here we are.
All right. Well, thank you all for the debunk. And now we are going to move on into our show. And, tonight we have a special treat because Lila and Wayne are going to stick around for the entire discussion of this very important topic. So, yes. So, just this past weekend, I did an in-person Juneteenth event where I did a Q&A on COVID vaccines. And there were tons of questions, but there was one brave sister who stood up in the audience and said, I've met somebody during COVID. He and I are both vaccinated, but we both have underlying conditions. He has COPD and diabetes, and I have diabetes. And we don't live together. So we're afraid to even kiss because we don't want to, increase the possibility that we'll have COVID. So can we get a little closer physically? Right. And so she was brave because this event was at a church, and you know how church people can be sometimes. I'm not saying everybody, but so she was very brave. She stood up. She actually got a standing ovation for asking that question.
There she asked the question
Everybody wanted to know
You're
in
right.
church.
Exactly.
They wanted to know,
exactly.
Can I get a little closer to
Exactly.
the one?
And, you know, she said she was a senior, right? So, you know, that kind of added to the fact that she was brave and standing up and saying that.
Seniors need loving too.
This is true. This is true.
I think it was a song The Time put out. Seniors need loving too.
No, that's Gigolos. But anyway.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, you know, we know that intimacy has really been tough, even for established couples who found themselves together all the time. And, you know, sometimes, you know, that does not necessarily set up the best conditions for intimacy. Plus, there have been all these other things, homeschooling, and, you know, grieving and loss of employment, all these things that can also interrupt intimacy. And then, of course, there's singles too, who, if they didn't have a dedicated partner, it kind of cramped their style a little bit. So we're going to be talking about all of that with my wonderful guest, Miss Angela Stribling, who's an influencer, a television host, radio broadcaster, evening news anchorwoman, singer, and voiceover professional. She's best known as BET's anchor of a previous show in her previous life, and she now hosts both the Afternoon Groove on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141, and her weekly call-in show, Pillow Talk with Angela, where she talks all things intimacy on Sunday night on WHUR Radio in DC. So welcome, Miss Angela Stribling. Thank you so much for joining us.
Dr. Mel, it's an honor. I like the way you introduced me. That was pretty special. Thank you.
Well, you were a special guest.
Okay.
So of course.
Oh, I am enjoying this conversation. I was backstage just taking it all in, all of it.
All right.
So thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for being here. We are going to jump right into it. And we are going to just start off with the fact that there was this article that just came out that talked about that STDs were at an all-time high in 2019 before the pandemic hit. Unfortunately, it also mentioned too that Black people have a rate of STDs 6 to 8 times that of whites, but we'll go into that at another time. So,
Goodness.
Yeah,
what's wrong with the condom?
That's very disturbing.
Come on, people.
Right.
It's just kind of disheartening. I don't mean to interject, but you know, it's 2021. We know better. We do.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I think we need to continue to teach young people and everybody about the need to use condoms and practice safe sex, because the STDs are out there. But the thing is, in 2020, that STD rate went down. It was the first year that it went down in a string of years. So what was your sense from folks that called into your show, especially the singles, about whether people were hooking up with new partners during the pandemic?
Dr. Mel, that's such a good question. And there were a lot more than you would probably guess. A lot more people than I would have imagined that were just kind of taking a risk and saying, we're just going to go and do this anyway and hope for the best. But there were a lot of people who were just not having sex, not shaking hands, not doing anything, and, you know, just being home. So, you know, the pandemic really changed the whole dating landscape. You know, a lot of people, especially people in my generation and younger and older, who don't get on dating apps, and I guess we're kind of sworn off to the dating apps and said, I would never. You know, people just get on there because they just want to have sex. They want to have random sex, and they just, you know, blow it all out of proportion. But during the pandemic, people were lonely, and they're like, well, let me just check this out. This can't be so bad. People were swiping left, swiping right.
Swiping right.
What do I have this data plan for? Why do I have this data plan?
Right. Let me increase my data plan, you know, and trying all kinds of things. So yeah, it definitely changed so much.
Yeah. So speaking of trying all kinds of things, did you get a sense that people were speaking to each other more about their sexual histories? Like, have you slept with somebody new in the past 2 weeks? Did y'all use a mask? Do you think those conversations were going on?
I don't. I don't. I don't. I think there are two different types of people. There's the one who is just, they're probably not ones to use condoms, regularly, if at all. And even though it was a pandemic, they would kind of throw caution to the wind and still try to hook up with people. And then there's the majority of people who took it seriously, especially seeing how many people caught COVID and died from it. That was so frightening, and it frightened many of us to our core. So you put the whole dating thing on the back burner and say, okay, I'm still single. I still want to hook up with somebody, but there's got to be another way to do it. And the pandemic was actually a good thing for a lot of people, where it allowed you the opportunity to get to know someone slowly, to get to know how they think, get to know what their thoughts are, all the things that you would organically want to do, but it's not clouded by sex. And, you get to know each other slowly. And then now, though, people are like, okay, let's meet.
Let's get to it. I have to jump in here because I see some comments. And I have to say, the folks who I know personally who've been kind of getting it in during this pandemic situation, vaccinated, are seniors. And Yvonne says, seniors are using dating apps big time. People are traveling thousands of miles for good sex. Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Y'all,
it is what's happening.
Road trips for it, huh? Okay.
A road trip, whatever you have to do. I mean, Dr. Mel, as you said earlier, people have been 24 hours in the house, social distancing. People just want to be around people in general, even, not just the dating aspect. But you add to that people who are single and they've been wanting to meet somebody anyway. Okay, let's say they decided, okay, I'm going to swipe. And they've been communicating with someone. Now it's time to meet. Heck, yeah, they're going to get on a plane or, meet you at the coffee shop or whatever you need to do to finally meet that person. But oftentimes it's not what you think, because virtually, there are all kinds of filters. Your representative has a lot more opportunities to make you seem like you are just,
The best thing since sliced bread. Yeah.
The best thing. And you're just, you're not virtually hanging out with them 24/7. It's little snippets. We can all create this wonderful person in a snippet or two, or, right before we go to bed or first thing in the morning. So what I encourage people to do is just be open and know that, okay, just give them a pass, because you might not be what they were expecting either. So, let's all just take it easy and not be too judgmental, and not just if they don't look exactly like they did because they got a filter.
That's
give
good
them,
advice.
Give them a little bit of a pass and just kind of see where it goes. Because again, you have the opportunity to really get to know this person, not just the looks. You got a chance to spend, a few months, maybe even a year, depending on when you started hanging out with them online.
Yeah.
So focus on that part.
So now let's go back to before vaccinations and with testing. Were people asking each other to get a COVID test before meeting?
Ooh.
And now do you think that that'll be a thing for the unvaccinated that want to date?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think the hottest pickup line is, are you vaccinated?
That might be the first pickup line now.
Right? I think so.
Right? I don't need your number.
You kind of, but are you vaccinated?
Right.
We kind of lead with that. And so we did a show on that also. I love that you brought that up, because we were asking people, is it a deal breaker if you're the person you want to date is not vaccinated, or, however you are on that scale, do you require that your partner is, in the same lane that you're in, or what? Or what if you're vaccinated and you totally believe in the vaccination and you don't see how anyone could not be vaccinated? Are you going to just lose respect for someone who chooses to wait or maybe not get the vaccine at all? It's a lot. And I think a lot of it comes down to just really being honest, because you get to make your own decisions with this. You get to decide what you feel is best for you. And, just be honest, with your potential partner.
I know two people that have broken up. I know two couples that have broken up because one refused to get vaccinated, and it was like, well, if you come around me, but I have my mom that I have to think about, or I have my dad that I have to think about. And, it just caused a wedge in the relationship. And then there's all this about, fake vaccination cards.
Oh my gosh.
Do people have to worry about that if that's going to be the new pickup line?
Oh my gosh.
What
did someone say? There was a term for that. I think it was called transvaxxed. I'm not vaccinated, but I present myself as one.
Wow.
Okay. That's totally new. That's totally new.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I want to ask Lila, are you looking at the comments at Diane?
Oh, I see Diana.
Can we get Diana's comment?
That I know.
Go ahead.
So,
Get Diana's
here's a comment from Diana McDade. I did nothing as a single female throughout 2020, but once I got vaccinated, that changed my paradigm. My prerequisite was fully vaccinated and 15 days after the last shot. I can finally kiss and get my sex on. Well, all right. So
and there you have it.
There you have it. I think, what's her name, Diane?
Diana.
Diana, I think there are a lot of Dianas out there, and the male version as well. People want to connect. I mean, we are social beings, and we've waited a long time. I don't see anything wrong with it, as long as you're comfortable and you're grown and do you. I think again, the whole pandemic afforded us all. I'm just looking at the positive side of it as it relates to dating. It kind of allowed all of us to kind of figure out what you really want and to become that partner you want to present to your guy or your woman. What I mean is work on yourself, because you want greatness. We all do. We all feel like we're entitled to the best of the best of the best. But are you the best of the best of the best?
Wow.
There you go.
That is like the Muhammad Ali statement. It's not the mountains or hills we have to worry about climbing. It's actually the pebble in our shoe. That is the problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's real. It's really something
I would
consider.
say I came up with that and gave it to Muhammad Ali. So,
of course you did. We knew that.
so I want to step in here and say I have a comment from, I hope I'm saying her name correctly, Zamitra Carswell, and she says, I'm celibate by choice. I'm a registered nurse. However, I'm vaccinated. It is still very concerning. I guess she's talking about the dating and
I think that's very akin to the woman that stood up in the church that I talked about. She found a partner. They're both vaccinated, but they were even hesitant about taking their relationship to be more physically intimate because of the concern about COVID. And I would answer her, Ms. Carswell, as I answered that day, which was, if you're both vaccinated and, when you're in crowded conditions around people where you can't physically distance, wear your mask, practice good hand hygiene. And if you're doing that, there's no reason why, if with another vaccinated person, you want to get physically intimate, there's no reason that you shouldn't do that. If you have a concern that you have an underlying health condition that makes it such that you might not respond to the vaccine as, somebody with a robust immune system might. So for example, if you have HIV or if you have a cancer of the immune system like lymphoma, or you're on medications like steroids that suppress your immune system, you might want to talk with your doctor, and they can order an antibody test and see if you've had a good response to the vaccine or not. And that will also help you make a decision. But if you have a robust immune system and no reason to be concerned about that, there's absolutely no reason that with another vaccinated person you shouldn't that you should have concerns.
And seniors,
That's awesome.
You get to use some condoms too. Seniors, y'all can get STIs and pass them. Ask anybody at a nursing facility. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. For a while there, HIV, the population where HIV was growing the most was seniors, because I think they thought, that they were immune to getting it. But just like COVID, everybody can get HIV. So, it's important to wear those condoms.
Yeah. And I love the fact that people are, finally able to connect again and meet new people, and it's it was scary, just COVID and just not knowing, but there are other things to be concerned about other than COVID. So,
sure.
At whatever age.
At whatever age.
Absolutely.
At whatever age. I mean, unless you're, a married couple, you two are just together, it's just you two, then do what you do. But short of that.
Well, now that you mentioned married couples, that was one of the things I mentioned at the top of the show. So COVID has had, or the effects of the lockdown have also had an effect on married couples. Like I said, with the kids around all the time, or just being around each other all the time, or could be an intimacy killer. Have you heard anything about that from folks calling in?
Have I ever? Talk about an intimacy killer, even if there are no kids around. It's just the two of you, but it's too much. You're seeing this person 24/7, and you're learning things that you really wish you hadn't known about your beloved. You're like, oh, that's you? Where, before they would go to work and you would get to see, you see each other briefly in the morning, come home, you eat dinner, discuss, do what you do, and then you go to bed, get ready for the next day. So in the scheme of things, the hours were really limited, but they were quality. Now you're both there all the time, and, just letting it all hang out. And then because people weren't going anywhere, maybe a little too comfortable. Like, you're used to getting dressed up and you go to work and you've got your work friends, and it's nice to have other stimulation, other
social outlets.
Healthy. Yeah. It's healthy. It makes you miss each other. I need to miss you a little bit. But if you're always there, you're sitting around, you got your little sweats on, and you're just not cute. Yeah. You may or may not have showered today, like during the pandemic.
Could be a problem.
It's all real talk.
Not showering could affect your intimacy.
Yeah, most definitely.
Could.
Definitely. Hair, may or may not wash your hair, may not comb it. I mean, people were, and the other side of it, people were kind of getting a little bit depressed. It was a scary time for people.
I was going to mention that.
Fixing up for your sweetheart might not have been high on your priority. And unfortunately, just for all of those reasons, for not having a break from each other, at all, for every single day for a year. That is why a lot of people divorced.
Right.
Yeah. Depression is a real thing, and it could keep you from being your best self, obviously, for yourself and for other people. And just like you said, that 24/7 exposure can definitely make people not present their best selves. Put it that way.
Yeah. So I'd like to interrupt and jump in here with another comment, two comments from our viewers. One from some guy, I don't really want to put it up, but a guy named Will Downing Singer says, Angela, you were doing so well. And that's just how I said you were doing so well.
You almost sound like him, but not quite.
No, I can't.
I know, you got to drop it down a little bit. Oh, that's closer.
I can't get there.
That's closer. That's closer. Yeah.
I can't. I might can talk there. I can't sing there. And then
you know what? Wait, before we leave Will, so, you know, we've all been doing the whole social media thing. And so I had Will on the WHUR platform, and he was calling it, he goes, okay, this started off as a pandemic. This is a pandemic. And he coined that phrase. He's like, it is the pandemic. And has everybody calling it that, which is so perfect.
It is. And so
Will has been on our show as well. So hi, Will. Thanks for listening in. Yeah.
You started.
Love you, Will.
So well. That's it. So we have another comment from Michelle Walker Scales, and she comments, and she meant to say Dr. Angela Stribling, not Dr. Stringing, but you don't. We love you, Michelle.
It's okay.
Do you think Black men are using condoms less than other male ethnic groups because of the disparity in
that's a possibility. Yes. Yeah, because of the rate of STDs, that's a possibility. I'm not sure what the reasons are, and there are also other ways that might not involve condoms. For example, oral sex is an opportunity to use a condom that not everybody takes, even though they may be using a condom for actual intercourse. So that's a good question. It's a potential explanation for why there are higher rates. But, you know, I'll have to get back to you on that because I don't have the exact answer as to why that is.
You know, I'm not going to say anything. I'll just leave that one.
But remember too, that is something that is a choice. It involves two, right? Yeah. So, you know, we could say Black men aren't using condoms, but also if their partners are not insisting that they use condoms, that's also, it's a two-way street. So I wouldn't point the finger 100% in one direction.
Okay.
Good answer. Good answer. I love the comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just very engaging. You know, I mean, this whole thing, the whole dating during the pandemic is just more than a notion. And I think, you know, I think there's some positives and I think there's some negatives. You know, the positives that I mentioned before, I mean, I think it could be quite sexy, just, you know, getting to know someone and just kind of waiting. And, you know, like the woman who stood up in church, you know, she's like, okay, we're out here now. Let's, you know, can we do it?
Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting. Yes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if relationships that formed during the pandemic over, you know, digital media, you know, last longer for the reasons that you said, because you've taken the time, you've taken the pressure out of, you know, having sex right there, right? And you're forced to interact with people. You're not in a movie, you're not in a restaurant where the distractions is just you and the other person on the screen. So you really do get to know the person, you know, at least what they tell you of them. But you know, you're in a over a long time, right? So essentially you have a friendship that is the basis for a relationship. So it'll be interesting to see whether these are longer lasting. Let's hope so.
I'm kind of thinking they will be. And also, you know, the dating apps, I'm sure you've checked those stats as well. The dating apps has gone up so much, just the number of people who have gotten on dating apps. And I don't think it's going to slow down. I think people who haven't tried it before, I see you getting ready to say something smart, Wayne.
No,
what's that?
No, I'm not. I'm going to wait for Lila to chime in on the next one.
Well, I was going to say that a lot of the dating apps are pushing people who've been vaccinated up in the queue, right? So they can match vaccinated folks with vaccinated folks. So I don't think the use of dating apps is going to decline anytime soon, especially for people who, I agree, Angela. I think it's going up. And there are a bunch of them who are huge proponents of the vaccination. So they're pushing those people they know to sort of connect with like minds.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
yours. Oh,
now,
like minds. I got it.
Like minds.
Yeah. Now, have you seen?
I was like, are you on their line?
No.
So
that's another show, though.
Speaking of that, have you seen people sort of getting into commitments quicker? Meaning, taking their relationship to the next level sooner because of the need to form a pod or form a bubble. Right. So move in together or make the decision to get married or, be monogamous.
I've seen a couple things. I've seen people date people, online, virtually, that they never would have dated in person just because they were lonely and just wanted some company. So the intention, I don't think was ever there to connect. So there's that one group, you know what I mean? They were just kind of hanging out. Second group, yes, get together, and because they're lonely, maybe that's like, the person who's a virgin and the first person they sleep with, they want to marry them. You know what I mean? They're just like so deprived and repressed that they're like, oh my God, I've been looking for you my whole life. Let's move in together. I love you. I know it's only been 2 weeks.
Right, exactly.
You're now feeling some kind of way. And some people are just not good being alone. I mean, that's a lot of people who just don't handle it well. And here they find themselves, you better stay by yourself because COVID will kill you. And so you're forced in this solitude. And those who just don't handle it well, I think, as soon as they meet somebody who's going to, show them a little bit of attention. And when you're in that space, where you're just lonely and you just want to be with somebody, you're not as discerning as you need to be.
Right.
Because it clouds everything.
Yeah. So two things I think I don't want to miss those points. Number one, we talked about depression. And if you are depressed, meaning you've lost pleasure in normal activities that normally used to bring you pleasure, don't hesitate to reach out for mental health counseling. Same thing for couples, I think, too, when we talked about sort of that loss of intimacy. That might be also another scenario. You don't want that to be something that brings your marriage down. And then the third thing I think that we just touched on is, not being vulnerable. So vulnerable and hungry. What do the young people call it? Thirsty. Not being thirsty. Right.
But I like yours, Dr. Mel. Hungry. I'm just hungry.
Hungry and thirsty. That you fall for the first person that comes along.
Hungry and I'm thirsty.
Lemon pepper wings.
Exactly.
Rick Rose talk about lemon pepper wings. Anyway, I have another comment from one of our many viewers, and once again, the Mays family strikes. When they strike quick and fast and hard. Dinah Mays McCade says, "Well, phone and video sex had to go up. It did for me." Just
okay. I love the honesty because I know it's true.
We thank you.
It's funny that was the
Dinah.
comment, because my next question for Angela, this goes right into that. This goes right into that. Angela, were you having callers speak about pleasuring themselves as a form of intimacy when they were alone?
We talk about that. We talk about how, is that the question? That's it?
Yes, that's the question.
Yes, we talked about that. And we talked about how healthy it is. I mean,
Yes.
I think it was last month or the month before last was, I didn't even know this existed, National Masturbation Month. And who knew? However, look at Wayne is looking around like, what?
I thought it was Black Music Month.
It was that too.
What happened to Black Music Month?
/ national. Well, but so I have various sexologists on and things like that, talking about your sexual health and your emotional health. And, you know, you're there all by yourself. I mean, why not? It's actually a great thing. And it's good for you. If you're there by yourself, wait, I can't look at your face.
What?
No.
I'm the straight man here. Go ahead.
Okay, you're straight man. So yes, we did have callers talking about that, asking about that. The only thing is there's always such a thing as too much of a good thing. If you are masturbating to the point that don't laugh, Wayne, just go on your face. If you're masturbating to the point that you're canceling appointments and
Right.
for things, it's really a thing. I mean, then you need to turn off the porn or whatever it is that you're using to get you there, and slow your roll.
Be sure to wash your hands.
I think anything that
wash your hands and
interferes.
wear a mask. What? Lila.
Anything that interferes with your being able to carry out your normal daily routine and be a productive adult would be characterized as an addiction. So I think that's the point at which, that's the point at which you have to realize that if your other relationships or your job or other things are threatened by your level of activity. But you're absolutely right. That I think is a healthy way of first having intimacy with yourself and loving yourself so that you can have better intimate relationships with others. So
I totally believe that. And that's if you're in a relationship or not. This isn't just the single people. And there's always the question of, if I'm in a relationship, does that take away from, actually, there was one woman who was so upset because her husband was pleasuring himself. And, my feeling and the sexologists are like, no, that's not, I mean, they weren't having sex. They weren't even having sex every day. But just because she didn't want sex every day doesn't mean that he didn't want sex every day. And I would rather my guy to do that than seek it elsewhere. And for the women as well. I mean, to just get to know yourself, get to know your body, get to know what you like. I mean, you deserve just as much pleasure as he does. And if you don't know what makes you feel good, you won't be able to, kind of help him.
Absolutely.
Let you know. Help him get you there. So you need to do that.
So one other thing that I've heard, just regarding sexual health is the concerns that people have around the vaccination causing fertility issues. Do you think that many people realize some of the things that I talked about in the weekly recap, in the daily debunk, or the weekly debunk rather, around men's sexual health and COVID, that COVID itself can cause low sperm count and erectile dysfunction? Has that ever come up?
It hasn't, but I would love for you to get that information out a lot more, because there's so much misinformation about COVID, even still, and about the vaccination. I mean, it was just amazing to me how many intelligent people still believe it, though. Just a lot of the misinformation it's on the internet. These are not medical doctors. These are not scientists. These are just fictitious people who, maybe heard something here, heard something there, and will say it with so much passion that, to me, you got to do your own research and make a decision from there, but not from, just things that are floating around, either rumors or things floating around on the internet. I mean, I think there's a lot of misinformation. And to me, just look at the people, once it affects your own circle, be it your family or your friends, that's what lets you know this is not made up. COVID is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID is real. And
absolutely.
why would there not be, science to try to protect us from it? That's what it's for.
Right.
So, just engage your own mind. Don't be influenced, by other people. And most of the people aren't the people that you even know.
Yeah.
And
my concern is that, 8 out of 10 new infections in DC are in the Black community. And so what I'm hoping to get out as a message to people who are choosing to not get vaccinated is you are not only are you not protecting yourself, you're not protecting your tribe, whoever that is, whether that's your church family, whether that's your Bidwist buddies, whether that's who you hang out with, at the pier on Saturday afternoons, whoever your girls, your boys, whoever that is, you are not protecting them and their circles when you choose not to get vaccinated. And as we talked about before, a variant can pop up in anybody. And so getting vaccinated is really like forming a human chain. And if you are not vaccinated, you're the weakest link in the chain, and you're not protecting those people behind you that you're supposed to be protecting by forming that human chain. So
we got.
And then I wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wonder, the people who are not vaccinated, who are they more comfortable around? Someone who they know isn't vaccinated either, or someone who is vaccinated?
And there you have it.
Because if you answer that question, then you know what you need
Honestly.
to go do.
Right. Exactly. Great point. Wayne, you had one last question?
We had one question, and it was a medical question on leukemia. Is there any data with leukemia and the vaccine? How do I know it's safe?
So there is absolutely no reason other than allergy to the vaccine ingredients themselves to not take the vaccine. It actually provides some level of protection for everyone, regardless of the underlying condition that you have. Leukemia is a blood cancer, and so there's a chance that you might not have the same immune response as someone who has a robust immune system, but it will give you better protection than if you had not gotten the vaccine. So I think it's really important. I still tell everybody who has questions, talk to your doctor, have that conversation with them. They'll tell you the same thing that I did, but it's also important for them to be able to time the vaccine with whatever therapies that you may be getting for your leukemia. So that's an important piece. But there really are no conditions that are reasons to not get vaccinated.
All right. And there you have it.
That's so good. Dr. Mel, you have been through this entire pandemic. You have just been so good just with giving information for us who have no idea. I mean, this whole thing has been so frightening. And I know even on WHUR, we've featured you, you're on Sirius XM, and it's just, I just want to thank you personally for all that you do. It's really so comforting and so important. I mean, I listen just because, there's so many unanswered questions. And as we were talking about earlier, so much bad information. So hearing it from a medical doctor who has done her research and who is, just in it, it's just been comforting, and it's been so wonderful.
Thank you so much, Angela. That is why we are here each and every week. It's been an honor to have you on the show. It's been a fun discussion. Thank you so much for being here. Absolutely. And, as we've heard tonight, intimacy and COVID, there are ways to be safe, especially if you're vaccinated. That is the best way to be safe. When meeting a new person, asking if they're vaccinated, still continuing, if you're in crowded places, to take all the precautions that have gotten us thus far through the pandemic. I hope that all of us work on all of our relationships. And as we get vaccinated, that we're able to reconnect with other of our friends that we haven't seen in a long time. It's great for our mental health. It's great for our well-being, but please do it safely, taking all the precautions and getting vaccinated if you haven't yet done so. And we are going to be back here next Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, on YouTube and Facebook. You can also catch me tomorrow morning on the Russ Parr Morning Show at 8:50 a.m. If you're awake, listen up. And, as I always say when we sign off, remember, be wise, be well, and be health empowered. Thanks again to my producers and to my wonderful guest, Angela Stribling, and I will see you all soon.